Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling. We're going out to Georgia. We've talked Georgia. It's on our mind. They have a great wrestling state. It's growing all the time. And one of the reasons why is Woodward Academy, and the head coach there is Jeff Ragan, who was an All-American at Oklahoma State. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
What's your take on why Georgia has gotten so good?
Well, a wise person once said it takes a village, and I think we have an amazing village. We're all with the same common goal. You've heard the same names, whether it's Arturo, who's working with our program a lot and helping us out, with his facility for off-site training. Of course, we got Compound. I know some of our guys work with Compound a lot. Fretwell's amazing. He's a genius when it comes to the creativity, making wrestling relevant, Level Up. I think they've really kind of cornered the market on the youth building. And I think that, he's doing a great job, but, we still got Peter Yates with the Yates training, and the list goes on and on. Just from a standpoint of not just trying to build young men. And I think there's a lot of programs in their own little pocket that wrestling's a great sport for that. But they're also trying to put wrestling on the map. They're trying to make it relevant. They're trying to make it fun. And I feel terrible if I'm leaving people off. I know that there's the center down in Macon. He does an amazing job with his big boys. And I know we've got centers all over and around the area. I'm just sort of telling you the ones that are closest to us that we work with. But one of the coolest things is, when I first got here and I wanted to help out with Team Georgia, the first year I said, how can I help? And at the time, he's no longer the head of USA Wrestling, but Anthony Flatt was like, well, why don't you help raise funds? And for a whole year, I was just the fundraiser for USA Wrestling, and I think we raised $65,000 or something. But I'm I think I can do more. And Robert Horton, who just recently passed away, was a great guy, and I knew him for a lot of years. Sherry Horton has done so much for USA Wrestling, and Trey, I got to train from the time he was in 7th or 8th grade, and I know their team just won the area, and he's doing a great job as a coach. But they were really invested in what's best for the sport of wrestling, and me doing camps for Trey's team and Robert Horton and Sherry Horton for years. When I said, how can I help? They just said, well, we need a middle school coach. We need a USA Wrestling schoolboy coach. Would you mind doing that? I mean, I know you're, a Feel It World Team member and placer, but would you be, I got no problem working with youth kids, and that was actually the funnest part, getting the chance to work with, like you mentioned on the Wrestling on Your Mind, almost every one of those kids was on 1 or 2 or 3 of those schoolboy teams or cadet teams that I got a chance to coach, myself, Christian Flavin, who's helping out at Life University, our assistant coach at Life University, Terry Allison, helping out with our Greco team, along with for the years. I really think that, and the Level Up coaches and several other coaches, they all kind of came together, and we built a team, and it wasn't just me or Terry or Compound or Fret, it wasn't, it was all of us. It was the parents. It was everybody getting together and saying, we can build something special if we all work together as one team. And that team is Team Georgia. And we first year, we sent some hammers, but we didn't have enough. And then the next year, we brought a full team, full varsity, full JV, more or less. And it wasn't, the numbers of Illinois or PA or Jersey, but we brought enough to get us to the finals, both in Greco and freestyle. And those kids began to start to believe. And yeah, technique, and the things that I had the awesome advantage of working with John Smith and being a Division I college coach, and helping train world team members and Olympians. When I was retired as a wrestler myself, I was able to bring that to the table with these 7th, 8th graders. I said, if you guys stick to this plan, great things can happen. And they've stayed together, and we've been on the cadet teams together. And we did the highest we ever finished for schoolboy. Then we did the highest we ever finished for cadet. Then we went to Fargo. We had the highest we ever finished, the top 4, top 3. And sadly, we weren't able to go to Fargo last year because of, this, everything going on. But I think it's that group of kids that stay together. And I think it was the coaches willing to let go and just say, here, you can work with them, or the training centers to not have the ego to say, hey, we just want what's best for these kids. And they all came together and we did some special things. And I was just glad to be a part of that. And, but like I said, it takes a village, and there were so many people that you named that we couldn't do it without, they're the godfathers of Georgia wrestling. And before I even got here 6.5 years ago, they were already building the programs and the youth. And now we just all kind of came together as one, like megabot, came together to form one massive, cohesive group. But I think that's what's really the difference maker. They're making each other better. So
how do you keep Megabot together so that it continues year after year and you don't have a huge dip? There's going to be ebbs and flows, but how do you make sure you maintain some consistency?
I mean, so far, I think it's, everybody wants to now say, hey, I'm Team Georgia. I want to be a part of that. I think the Minions do a great job of keeping those young kids together. I've got an 8th grader who just moved down from Virginia, Robbie DeHaven. I think he's been at 7 national tournaments in the past 3.5 months, and he's been in the finals of 8 national tournaments, been in the finals of 7 of them, and won 5 of them. But he also works with Team Minion, so I know that on the weekends that we're not doing stuff, he's out there with Minions, and so they're all fighting to be the best in that little group. I think that they're all training at Level Up, or all they're training at Compound, they're training at Peter Yates facility, or down in Macon, or in Alpharetta, or wherever they're training at those facilities. But at the end of the day, we still make that all-star team for those kids that are under that age. And then we know that once we can sort of like get our hands on them for Team Georgia before they go into high school, then we are able to sort of keep that cohesive team of Team Minion beyond Team Minion and make it Team Georgia. And it sort of like spills in. And then we still have the Team Georgia kids where they're such close friends that they want to get together. I mean, it's amazing. We go to, we of course, we wrestle against each other, and we have to compete against each other in big competitions. But when we're done at Knockout, or we're done at state duels, or we're done at some big event, you see those same kids hanging out, being best buddies, training together, spending the night together, hanging, being friends. And I think it's that camaraderie, and it's that not having an ego in the coaching staff, not having an ego in the group, that just allows us to keep that going and that pipeline. So I'd say it's just sort of like keeping everybody level-headed and just on that one mission and staying close. So
I wouldn't say it's a trend yet, but you see enough of this where you take notice, and that's that college coaches are going to a different level. So you were at the Citadel, and now you've gone to youth and high school wrestling. What is it about that transition, and why do you like making that transition into a different role?
So, not to go into many details, but, I had the advantage of having an amazing career at Oklahoma State University, and having the ability to train with some of the best kids, and travel around the world, compete, and then be a Division I college coach as the associate head coach at Citadel for 14 years. And in that time, coach multiple All-Americans, lots of top 25 finishes at the NCAAs, but also then have some of my wrestlers going to make world teams. One of my kids that was one of our club coaches, make an Olympic team for Team Mexico, and, getting the GAs together and working, coaching at the highest level. It's the little things. It was just like that one competition that got him to qualify for his country. On that day he was on point, but it's the little things that make the biggest difference, that you win in double overtime, like Ugi Shingamyoung, winning to make the semifinals in triple overtime, like kind of at the second to go type thing, that it's the difference in winning and losing, and it's, ebbs and flows and emotions, and it's great. But you get to that point where you want to spend more time with your family, you want to spend more time with your kids, but at the same time, that you can make so much more of a difference at that younger level. And so I was also a full-time professor at the Citadel, and same thing, you're trying to teach these, young minds to become successful, whether it be engineering or, pre-med or whatever. And again, Citadel is a great academic school, but it was kind of more like, well, what's going to be on the test? Why do I have to know this? The inspiration, the light bulb turning on wasn't always there. And so I felt like when I went through some, essentially medical miracles, I guess, if you want to say, getting through a lot of surgeries and a transplant, a bunch of other things that I did over the course of several years, dialysis, you name it. I think when, I was here for a reason still. Somehow I was still alive and still around. And I was like, well, if I'm going to still be here and I'm here for a reason, I might as well make the best of it. And where can I do the most good? And I felt like teaching middle school kids, although the principal, I think at the time at Woodward Academy said, what the hell does a math professor want to teach, 13 and 14-year-olds? And I told him, I said, I want to get these kids inspired. I want to get them to love learning. I want to get them to be excited about, the possibilities. And he was like, all right, you got the job type thing. As far as same thing with coaching, working with those 7th and 8th graders and getting them to go through those emotions, but seeing the instantaneous change and that growth with each match. And then seeing those kids that are 3rd string JV make varsity by the end and qualify for state. And then by the next year, they're in the finals. The next year they win it. And then the next year they've got a scholarship to Division I school, and sending 5 kids to the Division I program and getting to coach and watch them just makes it that much more special. So, I mean, I think I've seen a lot of my friends do that. I know Ken Cross did it for a while. I know that watching other coaches, take that path, it's just gratifying, and I think we all kind of say the same thing. I know Daniel Cormier, I get to see him when we go out to the Doc B. I know he's doing it. It's fun. We enjoy doing it, watching those college guys retire from the grind and just say, you know what, I want to help build a program, Hardell Moore building his program there in Oklahoma, or, watching, what all these guys are doing. It's special. Mark Munoz, I know he's coaching now, and watching all these college, guys that I train with now, they're either coaching in college or high school, but coaching a high school, coaching a youth club, it's almost as satisfying, if not more, because you really get to see those kids not just have success, but then you get to see them go on and have success. So it's something special, and everything's different for everybody, but I'm having a blast, and I wouldn't want to do anything else at this point. So
college wrestling is different with the transfer portal. You wrestled at Oklahoma State. You were behind Teague Moore for those years. Then you got your chance and were an All-American your senior year. Did that ever cross your mind, transferring out?
I don't think so. I say that like I had a lot of offers coming out of high school, but I knew John Smith wrestled my style, and I thought, I could go to Ohio State, and Russ Hellickson's great, but I went to Russ Hellickson camps, and I got a full ride scholarship offer my senior year, but the way Russ Hellickson wrestles and his build and my build, not the same. And I kind of thought, I got to make a decision for what's best for me as a wrestler. Who are my training partners? I knew Teague Moore. I knew Eric Guerrero. I knew these great guys were going to be there. So I looked at it like, if I want to be a coach, and my dad was a Hall of Fame coach and an amazing, guy, taught me a lot of things. And I knew that he gave me the tools to be successful. But if I wanted to be the next level of coach and then carry his torch and go on to be a college coach, which was my goal, and a math professor, which was my goal, I needed to learn from the best. And so I felt like every single day being in that room, I just got better. And so whether I was the support staff and I wrestled 118, 126, 134, we went 78 consecutive matches without a loss or tie. We went 79 consecutive matches without a loss in those 4.5 years. And I felt like I was a part of that, even if it was, filling in at weight classes, being the starter for this semester, or when this guy got hurt, or jumping up a weight class or 2 weight classes to wrestle the top 5 guy in the country. And in some cases going up weight class and wrestling a top 10 kid and beating him to help us win a match, in front of tens of thousands of people in Nebraska or Iowa or something. I felt like I was part of that team, and that was special. And I just couldn't see myself ever wrestling for somebody that was more technically amazing, wrestling for a program that was more special, that was doing more special things. And so, I could have chased the money or the fame and fortune, but I would have never made world teams for the United States or been at the top of my game had I not had guys like Ken Cross and Teague Moore and Eric Guerrero and Jameel Kelly to train with every day, and John Smith. So I saw the end game, and the end game was, I want to help. I want to be a coach. So I knew no matter what happened, and yes, I got a chance to finish and be a Big 12 champion and be an All-American. But I would have never been able to accomplish what I accomplished now in the last 20 years had I not stayed where I stayed. So I think it was a good decision.
Going from a college coach to a high school coach, what is a transition look like when you do that? I mean, I have to assume there's a different feel to it when you go to a different level.
So, the good news is when I was at the Citadel, we had a program that a guy named Jerry Wigger, who's still in Charleston and owns a law firm, Wigger Law Firm, and a shout out to Wigger, Wigger Law Firm. Anyway, no, he does a great job. He's got a lot of law firms all over Charleston. And he's also a high-level official, and he travels all over the world and he officiates. But he had a son, and Jordan Wigger, and he was 6 years old at the time. And he says, I want to start a training center, and we're going to call it, Charleston Wrestling Club or something like that. And I'd like you to help coach. And it was something new for me at the time to work with 6 and 7 year olds. But I was a teacher, I was an educator, and I was working on not just degrees as a mathematician, but I was getting education degrees, and I was, getting masters in mathematics and math education. I was running an academic sports center, both the math lab when I was at the Citadel and starting and running the academic sports center at the Citadel. So teaching was something that came natural to me. So working with 6 and 7 year olds just sort of changed the focus. Okay, we're going to make into this funny story where, okay, here's what you got to do. It's bear pooping in the woods to teach them how to run the pipe, squat down, and act like you're, but you don't want to poop down your legs and you don't want to look at it. Ooh, that's gross. And then the kids laugh and have fun, but you start to realize where you can reach your audience. And so that then turned into doing camps all over the country. Cause again, I'm not just, a guy who wrestled. I'm a guy who can break down the technique from the way the mathematician would break down a step in a move, and so I've done the same camps for a lot of these programs, whether it's Brandon High School for almost 10 years, whether it's Brother Martin High School in Louisiana, whether it was Collinsville High School when they were in their heyday, all over Alabama, all over, the Northeast, all over, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, and sometimes even out to California, Missouri. And I think, it's that ability to break it down. So coming from doing camps all summer long to help recruit when I was at the Citadel and then having a youth program that those kids went on to become high school. I think every one of those kids that started with the youth program, they became 4-time state champions in South Carolina. So I got to see that whole from 6 to 18, right? And many of them came and wrestled for me at the Citadel. So then coming back and teaching high school full-time, I think the biggest focus for me was like, keeping it simple. What move can I teach that has the least amount of like danger zones? Like, okay, we're not going to teach legs to this group because if you don't get it, you get pinned. But if I teach a cross wrist, if you don't get it, he stands up and you're on your feet again. It's just sort of like thinking of how can I maximize their success, but also build a foundation to give them the potential to be not only good in high school, but then give them the foundation to be good for college. So I think that's really what I really started to think about, to give them a full broad spectrum of technical sound skills so that they can be successful, beyond. And I think that's been my mission for the last 6.5 years. And I think I've, finally starting to see the results. I think we won 4 state titles in a row. But at the beginning, we didn't even, I think we placed 5th in our own area out of 6 teams and with 17 kids. So, it's building it has been fun. So.
Does your coaching mind work like an equation and a mathematician?
Oh God. Yeah. Everything's about the probability of finishing in this position. Where do you want to be? Where do you have the optimal position to finish? We're going to stay in these positions because we maximize our, I call them zones. One of my DVDs called Zones to Score. And, I've got 5 different DVDs. And the only reason I did it is because, when you help write textbooks and you're thinking like a math mind and you're thinking like that, you got to break it down into subsections and chapters and unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. So I break down my wrestling in like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. You want to be in an inside tie with a reverse wrist. You want to be on a Russian. You want to be on an underhook. If you're in these positions, it's really hard for them to score on you. And that's one of the things that we did with those middle school kids on Schoolboy. It was like in Greco, you're either here or you're here. That's it. You're not allowed to be doing anything else, reaching. You're not allowed to be, leading with your head. It's like those are your 2 places and you can't live anywhere else. And then once you get, we can go here, we can go here, we can go, and it was like coaches would say, how long you guys work with these kids? I said, 2 days. And like, they do everything we tell them to do. And I'm like, well, cause we only give them like 3 instructions, and then freestyle was the same. If they, they shoot, we sprawl, We don't let them get our leg and roll around, down block, reshot, down block, snap spin, down block, front headlock. Okay, we get to the leg, we finish on our feet, we don't have our head down. And we just gave them some cues, and then we kept it really simple, So I think that math mind probably helps a lot, because I'm always thinking about where we can maximize our points, like being a good top wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, if you can be good on top, you're always in the game. So that's a huge component of takedown to the back, but not throws. It's changing from takedowns to turns. It's focusing on top, because you can, it's where the money's made. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I think. So that's how I coach. So
the architect of Oklahoma State wrestling was E.C. Gallagher, who did not wrestle, but he had an engineering background. Did you study him at all?
I knew who he was. I used to actually tutor math for Myron Roderick's grandkids when they were still at high school. And so he gave me the key to the Hall of Fame. And I coach, I tutor them on Sundays, but I got to have the lay of the land and just check everything out. And so it was really cool getting to know the grandfather, the low single leg, and to see all these, from reading the history behind it all. Of course, you're at the Gable Museum, so you get it. Like I spent, I'd get there an hour early and tutor for an hour and then stay an extra half hour. But it was really cool to sort of really understand the history behind it. But you're right. You got to think like this. And there's a lot of coaches, and I don't ever want to put anybody down, because I've learned so much wrestling from going to camps with other clinicians and picking up little things and watching them. And I think you only get better by being around other great wrestlers and sort of picking their brain, and never feel like you know it all. But I feel like as far as like how my mind works, some of the best coaches, they think beyond the finish. They think, how do you get to the position? What's the focus of, and if you tell a kid, hey, do this, like, okay, 17 steps, how's the kid going to learn that? I'll actually reverse engineer it. I'll say, get into this position and now finish. So now they know how to finish it, right? Okay. And then after they know how to finish it, then I say, okay, now here's how you get to the leg. Okay. So then you reinforce how to finish again. So they know that they worked that double. Then you teach them the setup and then how to get in and then finish. And so if you work from the finish to the get to the position, to the start, to how to set it up, kids have now drilled the finish 3 more times and they finish the setup. And if you work the opposite way and you start with a setup, it sort of de-evolves from that position and gets worse and worse. And so they're all finishing sloppy instead of teaching them to start how to finish and then work backwards. And so I think if you reverse engineering wrestling and you think from a technical standpoint, you can really, really increase the likelihood the kids are going to pick the move up faster. And I think that's been sort of our secret. Yeah, we have some amazing coaches in our room. We got some great wrestlers. But I think it all started from somewhere where we got to get this move to, down pat and perfect it. So these kids that are in 7th, 8th grade, they're already in the state finals 2 years later. So we're getting quick return on their success, because they're working hard. They got good workout partners. They got great coaches, but they're also learning the right technique faster. So that's that helps a lot.
Let's put your mathematical mind on the table and go to your narrative mind. I need stories about 2 people. Let's start with a story about Teague Moore.
Teague Moore. He had probably the most flexible knees I'd ever wrestled against. And so it was such a unique thing to get a chance to train with him, but to have to learn how to finish against someone that could basically move his knees backwards and upside down and inside, right side wrong. I'd have to say that, I think they actually changed the rules at the NCAAs the year before his senior year or something, after he won an NCAA title, just the whole how to turn your knee away, but by then, at least I had a lot of experience getting on a leg and how to finish and kind of thinking about the little things. But I got to tell you, man, he was a gamer. You could never count him out of a match, and he knew how to show up and step up for the big events. And I couldn't, have got to the wrestler that I became if I didn't have someone like that pushing me. And so I know that he's doing good things at American, and I actually have 2 of my wrestlers who are at American as we speak. Neither one of them are currently wrestling, but they looked at the facility, looked at the program, and it was one of the programs I recommended, and they're getting great degrees right now. But I'll just say that he was the the grandfather of the rubber knee, so yeah, he changed the rules of wrestling.
And then of course we got to get a John Smith story.
All right, John Smith. Well, John Smith is he's a brilliant, I guess, wrestling mind. I always kind of thought of him as like Albert Einstein of wrestling. And ultimately, he would be the guy that would find a solution to a problem. Like, hey, I'm shooting in, and this guy's doing this, and people. It's funny. People actually, if you don't know him, you might think that he's blowing you off. You just don't get there. You get to a wrestling camp and you're like, hey, what do you do when the guy gets your leg and then your head's down? And he's like, well, I won't let him get my leg. You know what I mean? And they think he's being obtuse, but he's not. He's constantly thinking about how to make the sport better and how to change it and how to be successful. And so what I loved about him is in the 5 years that I was there, I didn't really think about it until it was my, senior year and I was graduating. I was getting the most determined award or something. And he pulls up to give it the award. And he says, I looked through my attendance sheets. I looked at my logbooks for the last 5 years. And this guy never missed a practice. And that was me. I never missed because I felt like every chance I could, even if it was a 7 o'clock extra practice that I could get in with Teague Moore in the morning or Eric Guerrero in the morning or something, that I could learn something. Because John would just, hey, let's try this. Well, okay, that's not working. Why don't we try this? And it was like I learned so much in those 5 years that I guess at the end of the day, it's like I owe my ability to think in that analytical mind and the technical side of things. And now matched with my analytical mind, I'm able to, was able to have some success as a coach and continue to have success as a coach because I don't think an analytical mind and breaking down wrestling without the technique, works together. So in harmony of his brilliant wrestling technical mind and then my sort of engineering mind put together. And I think that's what makes him special. But I'll tell you, he is a wrestling genius when it comes to technical stuff. So.
Jeff Ragan, let's keep Georgia wrestling on our mind. Thanks for your insight and your analytical mind. We've enjoyed it. Well,
I really do appreciate you having me on. I know that we started things off when you had a couple of those guys in the article, Matthew Singleton, top 4 guy in the country. He's a junior, just turning 17, real young kid. I'm excited about what he's going to do in college. But I remember I emailed you about, oh, by the way, there's Michael Kilich that's not on there. And I'll tell you, Michael Kilich I would put him up against anybody on any given day. He is a tough kid. And I know he's on your ranking, the number 2 junior in the country, and on Flo, he's the number 1. But people are going to realize really quickly here this year and next year that he is going to be one of the good ones. And I know colleges are all over, Michael Kilich and Matthew Singleton as juniors. And I've got a really amazing junior class with Gunnar Filipowicz and, Cole McBride and Ben Valdez and some amazing young kids that are coming through. But I'm telling you, Matthew Singleton and Michael Kilich are some special kids. So thank you for recognizing their hard accomplishments. And I won't hold it against you that you left off Michael Kilich. It'll motivate him even more. So.
That's good. I didn't have the right equation on that one, Jeff.
There you go. It's all good. Well, again, thanks for having me, and thank you for giving me a chance to talk up Woodward Academy. It's the largest college preparatory school in the country, and I have had more support at the school with my administration, with the president, all the way to the AD than I could have ever asked at any college, and I'm loving it. And we'll continue to grow this program till we're one of the top programs in the Southeast or one of the top programs in the country. But we're young and we're still plugging away. So.